Hi everyone, how are you all? What a beautiful day. Well, it's in the UK, I have to say. Absolutely fantastic. I've got Nick riding shotgun with me today, and he's reminding me of Spinal Tap. We've all got to have a finish like that, haven't we? Air guitar, man. Isn't it fantastic? Anyway, I've got a few of you in the chat box with me. Let's have a quick look. We've got Bitchin, who's saying drop the dwarfs. Go, go, go. Absolutely. We've just got to do that, hasn't it? At some stage, if I ever get video going for the radio, wouldn't it be funny? I've got Uncle Freshy, and who else have I got? Lucid's here. Hello, and Michael, you're here as well. Right, and Canny, Alan Sov, as always, is posting. Fantastic. There's a few of you in the chat box. Come on, get in this chat box and have a chat with me. As always, you know I love to chat with you all. And yes, please, come on. Make my day. Anyway, this week I've got an interview with Sean Hamman, and he's a shaman, so we're going to get on with that, but it's got adult content, he swears. So on the way in, can you make sure you've got your over 18 ID shown and your date of birth ready to prove your age? Get in that chat box and tell me how old you all are, otherwise you're not allowed to listen. Okay? Right then. Enjoy. Hi everybody, today I've got Sean Hamman with me, who is a shaman, as he says it. I would say it a shaman, because I'm from the north. And to be honest, I know absolutely nothing about shamanism. So I've asked him to come today and give me background into what exactly it is and how he works with it. So I'm actually really quite excited about today, because I'm completely a student in this arena. So hello, Sean, how are you?
Hi, Debbie. It's really great to be here today.
Fantastic. Now, this is, I am coming at this from literally a zero knowledge point base, which is highly unusual for me because I'm normally quite well read about bits and pieces. But give us, give me and the audience basically some background about who you are and how you become a shaman.
Yeah. Well, the shaman journey is a real paradox in being, because within the shaman, we are all shaman, but each of us is having our own unique connection to Source, to God, and to the unfoldment of how we remember ourselves through whichever pathway. And when you have a very specific shamanic calling, then you know that what the calling is. It's not a voice that you can ignore.
So, this calling, what did that sound like for you? What was the experience?
Well, for me, it was quite a strong ride, because when I started my life off with a Jehovah's Witness family. And in the witness doctrine, we were taught that that basically that when I die, my soul returns to the dust with the body, and that death is like an eternal sleep. And that if I'm a good boy in life and I pay attention to the rules that the Bible dictates, then God will remember me, and then on some chosen day will resurrect me into a paradise earth. And so basically, when I was a child, I was extremely sensitive, very vivid dreams, a presence that has always been with me. And when I was young, it was very frightening. But then I was in the Jehovah's Witnesses, and I kind of gave it a really good go for a while, but it just wasn't me. And then one day I had the opportunity to break away, and then I left the country where I was living, and then I broke away. But then what I did was, because I'd been living in a community which isolated itself from the world, seeing everybody that's outside as being wrong and in some way unable to realize happiness, they isolate themselves from the world. And then within that community, I isolated myself again also from the community. So when I stepped away from the Jehovah's Witnesses, I went to the extreme, because I felt, well, if If death is an eternal sleep, then I fucking love sleeping. So why what's the problem? I'm going to go out there and do absolutely everything you've told me I shouldn't do. And that's what I did. I went out and totally to the extreme. Went out and did everything that said I shouldn't do. And my life went extremely crazy for a while, kind of from withdrawing into community, from one extreme into another. So from this isolation to this extreme trying to find myself through my reality, through drugs mainly. And but the extreme, that extreme part of existence. And then one day I had the opportunity to smoke some DMT, and it was funny. Somebody had given me the substance, and normally I would have just experimented with it and just tried it out straight away. But with this, I kind of felt, put it on the shelf, leave it for a little while. And then I got the call to take it, and then just a little bit of background on DMT.
Yes, please.
Basically, everything that's alive has got DMT in them. In the human being, it lives in our pituitary gland, in our third eye, and this is that part of us that through which we receive our insight and our illumination. And our third eye has an impenetrable wall around it, and it doesn't allow anything in there except the proteins which feed it. And what happens with this DMT is that that DMT is that part of us that facilitates the soul leaving the body. And so basically we have it inside our brains. It comes through in nature. There's some plants that hold more of it than others. But it's interesting, in the human being, it basically comes into, it becomes noticeable in the human body 49 days after conception. And it's at this point that the fetus takes on a male or female gender.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and basically that we've got this DMT in here, and so basically what happens is if we isolate the DMT from the plants, then we're left with a compound, and if we eat it, then our stomach enzymes just break it down straight away, and nothing happens. But if you smoke it, then you have an experience where your soul leaves your body and you step into a bardo, and you step into a death state, and you suddenly realize that everything that you've been living as what you thought is your truth is not. And for me, it was a really big shock, very big shock, because I realized that I'd been basing my existence on a belief system that wasn't true. That in actual fact my body was just a vehicle, and that there was something far vaster actually happening. So for me, it was a really big experience. And then when I experienced this DMT, it was quite a traumatic experience, because I was laughing and screaming. Laughing, screaming, laughing, screaming. Wow. And it was a huge impact, because, realizing that I've been basing my existence on a belief system which just wasn't true. And from this point, I realized that I couldn't believe anything that anybody ever told me unless I could experience it in the moment as my living truth. then I started to feel right. So this is my calling, to know myself through the moment. And so I had a look to see who it is that works with presence in this way. And I found shamanism, because shamanism is based on direct experience.
Okay.
And so I started to look into shamanism from there.
So in effect, you have to have a level of experience in effect to get to shamanism like that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it tends to be a life calling.
Mm.
It's not really something you get to choose. It chooses you. So
the training for it is part of a journey. I'm assuming is part of a journey that you have to go on. Then is that? It
is. Yeah, it's a.
Can you explain that?
Well, it's kind of a curve.
Okay.
I mean, for me, how it unfolded, my interest has always been in the plants.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was escaping from the Jehovah's Witnesses, I stepped into drugs first. First, I went to try and find myself through the substances.
Mm-hmm.
And had I been in a tribal community, then I would have been noticed as a child.
All right.
And so, but because I wasn't noticed and I didn't have a teacher and I didn't have the guidance, my calling was to step in through the plants. But I didn't have a clear calling on what it was, how I was trying to find myself through substances.
Yeah.
But that's what I was doing. I was taking substances and then allowing my mind to disengage.
Uh-huh.
And exploring who it was that I am.
Mm-hmm.
But to start with, because I didn't have the guidance, it was to the extreme.
Yeah.
And then when I started to realize, oh my God, everything I've been basing my existence on is a lie, and something else is actually happening, this experience started to change. And so I started to look at the shaman, at the plants, and I heard about ayahuasca.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'd heard from ayahuasca is that it was like the creme de la creme on the shamanic side of things.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt within me that I needed to have somebody who felt right to work with. And I started to look around to see who I could find, but I couldn't find anybody at the time. And then one day I did a sitting with a group of friends, and we did a sitting with Salvia divinorum, which is a sage. It's the diviner.
Mm-hmm. And
the ancient people used to call it a skin crawler. But basically, it's a sage, and I smoked it, and then I had this experience with it where this energy just stepped into my body and took over for a moment. And I was like, "Ooh, this is a little bit too extreme for me." But hey, I'm an accomplished psychonaut. I'll go back again and have a look again. And then I went back again to have a look again, and this time it just took over my body and showed me that I wasn't actually in control. And then I came away from this experience, and then that night I went to sleep, and I had this dream. And in my dream I was in the jungle, and these men took me through to a clearing. And in this clearing there was this huge man. And he said to me, Sean, when you take your ayahuasca, make sure that you take it in a ritual setting, in a ceremony. So then I went online and I found the UDV and the Santa Daime, and the Santa Daime in Holland were just going through a big legal process at the time.
Mm-hmm.
and then at some point I managed to have the opportunity to drink with them, and my first session was very profound, profoundly beautiful. And after the session, I went up to the altar and I looked on the altar, and there was a photo there of this really huge black man, and he was the same black man who had come to me in my dream. So I knew I was kind of on track. So
when did the training start? So you had this basically almost this whole change in your life happen where you've realised about your existence.
Yeah.
So when did you make a decision actually to change that just experience into becoming and training as a shaman?
Basically, what's happened for me on the whole shaman story is that I went and apprenticed as a shaman, and I went and did a course with Alberto Velardo, who's of the Four Winds Foundation.
Right.
And they do a really fantastic shamanic training.
Okay.
And it comes from Peru, from the Indians in the mountains, and they teach you a really amazing practice.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened for me is that whilst I was having that experience of going and apprenticing with Alberto Velardo, I had been working within the ayahuasca tradition that I'd been working with for about 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
We'd been working in a group format, drinking a lot every couple of weeks for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And our practice was quite well developed. And then after doing 5 years of working within that group, I met Iboga.
Yeah.
And when I met Iboga, my whole reality changed again. Because now, instead of it being about working in a group and doing this healing, it became about becoming present for myself. And it was the recognition that only through being present for myself was I able to be present for others.
So how's that impacted on yourself in regards to just you in general, how you live your life?
Well, what I've basically realized within it from my own personal experience is that the shaman is just a story. It's a story that I've carried with me for all of my past lives, and it's a very similar story. It's like the same chapter that repeats itself over and over and over again. And it's one where I find myself in a reality where I'm living on the edges of the community, and I feel that I need to take responsibility for other people, basically. And by taking responsibility for other people, I'm not actually taking full responsibility for myself. So I'm basically using this as a story, every life, to the shaman story, to avoid not taking full responsibility for myself. I'm feeling that I need to be healing other people. And I had an experience once where I had my lives review. Mm-hmm. And it was a little bit of an eye-opener, and I realized that actually, here I am in this life, and my name is Sean Hamman. And, my parents were Jehovah's Witnesses. There was no ways that they looked at me and said, oh, you can be a shaman. But one of my nearest and dearest pointed out to me a few years ago that my first name and surname spell shaman.
I know, I noticed that when I wrote it down.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious.
I had to laugh because when I was doing the schedule, I put S. Hammond, and I read it afterwards. And I was just saying, Shaman. Who's Shaman?
Yeah, it's hilarious. So I kind of have this experience of having surrendered my shaman story. And what's happened is that as I've surrendered my shaman story, I've become it. So it's paradoxical, because as I'm dying, I'm being reborn.
Fascinating.
As I'm dying to my story, I'm being reborn. And what's happening is that I'm expressing, life is an expressing and experienced through me, far beyond anything that I could ever have dreamt in on a personal level. And my experience as a shaman is that life is a death experience. And that I'm dying into love.
That's quite profound, really.
Yeah. So it's interesting, because now when I do my ceremonies these days, I do a combination of esoteric science and ceremonial magic.
Okay, so just explain, basically what you mean by esoteric science.
Okay, so esoteric science is meditative self-inquiry, and basically it's the recognition that God is speaking to me through the stillness.
Okay.
Through the space between the thoughts. And if it is that I'm not these thoughts that I've been habitually choosing to think, and if I'm not these emotions that I've been choosing to feel, and if I'm not this physical body with its limitations of form, then who am I?
Yeah.
Who is it that's watching the mind and the emotions and this physical body? So what we're basically doing is we're posing this question, and we're going into stillness, and we're saying, well, God's speaking to me through the stillness and through the space between the thoughts. So if it is that I'm not my mind or my emotions or this physical body, then who am I? Or more importantly, what am I? And we pose this question into the stillness. And then after a little while of just being in the stillness, what starts to come out of the stillness is everything that we're not. And it's through being present through that which we're not, which is the death, that we step into the conscious realization of that which we are, which is the rebirth, where we are birthing ourselves as spirit into the physical, embodied as spirit in the physical. So it's kind of like we're doing like a death, mm-hmm. and then from the death, we have the death, and there's the intensity, and then you step through into the land of your ancestors, which is the bardo, and in Tibetan Buddhism, this is the land of the hungry ghosts.
Okay.
And it's interesting, because how we experience the hungry ghosts is these are all those thoughts and emotions that can't find comfort, that can't find happiness, that can't find satisfaction, always unhappy. You just can't find comfort through your body, and no matter how much you may try to do your mantra or your breath or how much you may try and engage the meditator within you, everything you do, nothing works.
Yeah.
And basically how we present this is that everything's a thought form. And the nature of thought forms, and it's interesting, but when people come to work with us, we usually get them reading Eckhart Tolle's books first.
Yeah.
Here's a book called A New Earth, and it's the Awakening Manual, basically. And he introduces people to the practice of presence in a very simple, easy layman's language. and he introduces you to signposts and pointers. And then you kind of step into the experience, and now we're taking you into a death state. And this death state has a language all of its own. It's more occult. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of a little bit more of the magical side. Uh-huh. And basically the recognition within this is that everything's a thought form, and thought forms are made up of two aspects of being. The one aspect is that they hold the mental, emotional, and physical part. So if somebody's coming in with an anger issue, there's going to be that initial little trigger thought that reacts at an experience, and it's got a chain of other thoughts that follow it through, and then it's got this whole consciousness about this story about the anger, and also the implications of the anger, the guilt that arises from the anger, and then it's also got the emotional side on how that emotion, how you're feeling that the anger, the emotion of anger, and then it's got its physical signature on how that anger is expressing itself through your body. So this is one part, one aspect, and the second aspect is that the thought form has a quality of self-preservation. So, and this is interesting because here it is, it's a thought form. It doesn't have a body, not a body that you can see, but it's having its own experience. It got its own connection to God, to Source, to the unfoldment of its journey. And the fact that it doesn't have a body doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It just means we may not be able to see it, but we can hear it speaking to us. And what happens with it is that because it's got this quality of self-preservation, it needs to feed to survive. And what it feeds on is it feeds on our attention. The moment we judge our thoughts, or our emotions, or this physical experience, and we see it as something that's wrong, or that's right, should be happening, shouldn't be happening, should be loved, healed, changed, pushed away, should be here, the whole range. The moment we judge it, the moment we see it as something that's right or wrong, it becomes sticky, and it steps into our experience, and now it's looking out through our eyes, and we're thinking its thoughts, experiencing its emotions, and this physical experience as if it's our own. And it's this thought form. And it's just feeding off us as we're trying to resolve it, as we're trying to heal it. Just feeding. And so basically what we're doing with these thought forms is we're all in relationship with them, and now we're having the opportunity to be able to step into a spaciousness and realize that actually these thought forms are having their own experience. And the best thing that we can do for these thought forms is just allow them the space, just to be there. Just to acknowledge them, yeah, they're there. Can't do anything about it, but it's just there.
So in effect, thought forms have a life of their own.
Yeah, totally. So we're all in relationship with them, and some of us have more intense experiences with thought forms than others. But basically, everybody has a whole little collection of them floating around. And it was interesting when we were working with ayahuasca, the CIA used to call ayahuasca telepathine. So you become very sensitive to thought forms. Because the thing is, you can feel as soon as you're giving energy to a thought form.
Yeah.
So what happens within this experience is we're saying, well, look, the thing is, thought forms are just like people. So we're sitting here in the circle, And each of us on the circle, each of us on this planet is having our own unique experience. God is speaking through each of us in our own unique, really special way. And the best thing that we can do for anybody in the space is just allow them the space to be able to be in their own experience without taking our attention to what we think is happening for them. And it's interesting as well, because when we were working with the ayahuasca groups, sometimes people would get into a process with the ayahuasca, and of course the opportunity within the ayahuasca is to consciously transcend our suffering through our death state. So what's happening is then so people are basically cooking, and you're cooking away, and some people are are coming up to heat quick, and some people are coming up to heat slowly. And then as these roots to our suffering start to come up to the surface, all the thought forms and all the pain which is attached to them start to arise to the surface. And basically the opportunity is just to see them and to allow them to be there. And if you can just see them and allow them to be there, then they just wash through. But if you get attached to them, then they kind of step into you, and now the plant's basically pulling the root of this attachment up to the surface, and as it's coming up to the surface, you're getting to see the entirety of this thought form. And the opportunity is just to be present for it and just to acknowledge it and allow it to be there.
But I can imagine that actually that raises quite a lot of stuff for a lot of people in our current environment if they're coming to you from kind of a normal life.
Yeah. Well, what tends to happen is that a lot of this experience, when we talk about presence and consciousness, is that for a lot of people it's just an intellectual concept. Mm-hmm. You can read it, it's an idea, no matter how much you read it, unless you can experience it as a living truth, it's not really worth anything. No. And so what we do is we basically, as well as just teaching meditative self-inquiry, we also do grounded self-inquiry, where we work with a plant. We work with iboga. Mm-hmm. And I've actually stopped working with ayahuasca. Mm-hmm. But iboga is the plant that I work with these days, because when I was working with ayahuasca, and the experience was about going into my death state and consciously transcending my suffering in my death state. So we're working in stillness, and stillness has no compromise. There's no space for stories. And when you step in through the stillness with the ayahuasca, then the voice that speaks to you through the stillness is speaking in the voice of trust. And it's the trust that comes from knowing that everything's perfect. There's nothing to change. There's nothing to heal. We can just let go. We're held in love. We've always been held in love, and we always will be held in love. And so the voice that's speaking through the stillness is speaking to us in the voice of trust. So we know that we can just let go. As we step in through our death, we know that we can just let go. And then when we step into iboga, where ayahuasca is teaching us how to die, iboga is teaching us how to live. So you can kind of see the patterns, my shamanic pattern really, because I've kind of done the whole death thing, and now I'm doing the rebirth.
So in many respects, as a shaman, even on your own journey, you are evolving it continuously.
Continuously. It's a continuous unfoldment. Amazing. And it just keeps expanding. But there's this basic pattern which keeps repeating itself. And it's this conscious death. consciously dying to what is, and allowing that experience, which is already expressing itself through me, to express itself through me without trying to escape into another experience.
It's just incredible, really. And, you know, like you say, many of us intellectually know it in regards to the whole trust and allowing.
Yeah. So what happens with it is that when you step into a plant, you know, within your life experience, you've kind of come up to that place where you may have done however many workshops, however many courses, and you've basically reached that point where no matter how much work you've done on yourself, there are still some aspects within your experience where you're just not realizing stillness. And then you kind of know what they are, you know. You go through your life and you know what those stories are. You know those ones you haven't been able to let go of. And then you go to a plant spirit. And now what happens is you engage you're basically making a deal with where your higher self is using a plant to restructure your DNA according to your intent. So now you're stepping into a relationship with a plant, and this plant is pushing you off the edge. This little edge where you haven't been able to step through, this little place where you just haven't been able to see what it is that you need to see, and you keep repeating the same loop over and over.
So in many respects it lays you quite bare.
Yeah, so it drops you into free fall. And you're having an awakening.
So how do you support that experience then? Because there must be, as some, like, if I was going through that experience, how would you support me through it? Because obviously that's emotionally quite, I imagine it could take on a real roller coaster.
Oh, yeah, totally. So, and it's not everybody's bag. Not everybody wants to step straight into that little number. Not everybody wants to wake up straight away.
No.
One of the criticisms that came up some years ago from the Buddhist community to people who are using psychedelics to wake up was they were saying, you know, that is cheating, you know, fast tracking. and the reply was, yeah, you know, why do over many lives what you can do now?
Yeah.
So what happens within this experience is that this is a grounding into the presence that's already here.
Mm-hmm.
It's a grounding into our natural undivided state of being. And what happens with it is that God is speaking to us through the stillness, through the space between the thoughts, and also through this experience that we're having. There's an intelligence that's expressing itself through us in the experience. But most of the time we're so stranded within our minds and our emotions that we're unable to hear the voice of presence speaking through us. So we basically work with a plant that grounds you.
Right.
And it grounds you into the stillness, into that space between the thoughts.
Okay.
And so what happens within this experience is that the only way that we let go of our suffering is through being able to see it without judging it. To be present through our suffering without trying to escape it. So what happens within this experience is we do a consultation for everybody before they come in, and we say, well, you know, basically this is a grounding into presence.
Mm-hmm.
And my experience of presence, my own personal experience of presence, is that my essential nature is emptiness. And my life practice is that I'm letting go into nothingness. And so my practice of surrendering into nothingness means that I'm letting go of everything. Everything that comes up to the surface is just an opportunity just to see it and to allow it to be there. And so I'm just giving everything back to God, everything that happens. I don't try to hang on to anything. And then those experiences that are meant for me come for me later. And then I have an experience of it as a living truth. It's not some insight or story that I've had to somehow record and and put into my life. I have an experience, and then I realize as a living truth what it is that I've realized that I've received through my practice with the plant. So I'm letting go into nothingness, and when I let go into nothingness, emanating from nothingness is a pure intelligence. Mm-hmm. And this pure intelligence is expressing itself through me. So when we step into the wood, then we're stepping into this presence. And this presence starts to speak to us through our reality, through this physical experience we're actually having now. And it starts to bring to the surface all those aspects of our experience where we haven't found stillness, where we haven't realized presence, where we're constantly doing the same loops over and over. So it brings them all up to the surface. And it's basically saying, look, these are all those parts you haven't been able to let go of. And these are all those parts that no matter how much you try, you just can't find the solution. So it whacks it all up, and then everybody gets a really good look in the window beforehand and gets to see all those parts that they haven't been able to let go of. And so how this translates into your experience is that, you may have something that's been ticking over beneath the surface for a while, and bang, everything starts to come up to the surface. So people find themselves in an intensity. And there's also the realization that within this intensity that there's a presence, that somehow you're in a process, that there's an unfoldment taking place, and there's an intelligence. And you go through the experience, and so basically this experience starts to express itself through you. And then by the time you come up to do a ceremony with us, you know what it is that you're letting go of. Mm. And you know what it is that you're letting go into. And then what happens is people step into the experience, and I'll speak about the experience in a little while. But they basically step into it, and then they receive their grounding. And the framework within it is that it's self-inquiry. So we're here to let go of control. So we're not looking at any of the stories. We're just going for the root. So people are coming in to let go of control and to basically have the grounding to be able to relax. So then they come out the other side, and now their DNA has been restructured according to their intent. They've been grounded into the stillness. And it's like somebody's hit the thought switch, like a light switch. Yeah. And suddenly this mental noise is just being switched off. And there's no noise. There's a stillness where there was just noise before. And I say to people afterwards, look, basically this experience now is you've had this experience, and it's so deep, it's happened on a core level, and really you can't see what's happened. Everything you can see is just peripheral, and you just give it to God, really. But most people don't have a clue what's happened when they come out. And then what happens is you step out into your reality, and now there's a stillness. And then what starts to arrive after a little while out of that stillness is everything that you're not. But now, instead of being in that mental anguish, that noise when these stories used to come to the surface, now there's a spaciousness to be able to see, oh yeah, there's that story that came up before the session, but now there's no emotional attachment to it. Now you're just seeing it. And you're not judging it. You're not trying to do anything with it. And in fact, you're allowing yourself to have the experience that you've always denied yourself. But now you're having the experience in the pure light of consciousness, with pure awareness, as opposed to being in some kind of mental bardo. And so the opportunity is afterwards is basically to have the space to be able to let go of our remote control. And so how we couch it is how we present it is we say that the way I really like to do it is I say, well, in the UK here we're all being watched. There's surveillance cameras everywhere, and somewhere there must be a big room with loads of TV screens, and each TV screen is playing out a different story, and they're fascinating. And watching all these screens is somebody sitting at a desk, you're that person watching all the screens. And then what happens within our experience is that we watch a screen and then we become so identified with this TV screen and the story that's happening in there that we identify with a character in it, and then after a while we're so identified with it that we think it's real. And then we've forgotten that we're the person watching all these screens because we've identified with this one screen, and now we're in this experience. And we're in the screen, and then after a while it starts to become a bit uncomfortable in there. And then we look around us and we see all these other screens, and we look at them and we think, they're a little bit more comfortable than I am. And, maybe if I go off and do this course, or maybe if I smoke this, or take this, or drink this, or whatever, then I can tweak my reality. And so basically we all do it. And we all have a remote control. And this remote control has got lots of different buttons. And these buttons are buttons like tobacco, alcohol, TV, all kinds of stuff. Romantic fantasies. We all know what buttons we use to escape being present for the pain of our reality. So we're all using different buttons. Yeah, we've all got a remote control, and so we're constantly hitting the remote control. And then what happens is we step out after this experience, and now there's the space to be able to let go of the remote control. And now you're having the experience that you've always denied yourself, and you're not trying to escape it. And you're just watching. And it's amazing because now it's an exploration. It's an adventure of what happens when I let go of trying to escape from this experience and allow this experience to express itself through me without trying to do anything about it. And this is the experience of the miraculous. And then what happens within this experience is that some stories within our life are so sticky, and we haven't been able to surrender them. And so now we're out in our life, we've stepped out into our reality, and this is where the work begins. People think they come in and do the session and that's where it happens. But you step out into your life and now the journey begins. And we say for the first 30 days, don't try and look for yourself in another experience. And just allow the experience which is expressing itself through you, just to express itself through you. And then you'll be presented with little opportunities where you'll have the opportunity to be present for yourself. And if you get attached to the story and it becomes sticky, instead of stepping into the story and then ending up down the road and around the corner, before you realize you've just stepped into your story, you become aware of it very quickly. Oh yeah, okay. And you come out of it. And then what happens with this is it's very interesting because now it's about this thing, you engage this presence, and this presence is now pushing you off the edge. And what this presence is also doing is it's intelligence. It's a pure intelligence. And what happens with it now is that now you get attached to your story, and almost immediately it comes back. Because this experience is very Zen. It's like having a Zen teacher. But instead of having a Zen teacher with a stick who hits you over your head when you forget the nature of your truth, and you ask him the same damn question again, and he hits you over the head with your stick, and then, you know, we've heard the story about the student who wakes up on the impact of the stick. This is just like that. But instead of having a physical Zen teacher, you've got a Zen teacher who lives inside you. And when you forget the nature of your reality, well, when you forget, you know, when you dissolve yourself in the story, then it slaps you in the face with your reality. So it slaps you in the face again. And right, okay, so you got into the story before. Now it's just come back and it's twice as big. And it's looking you in the face again, and it's like, whoa! You know, and maybe you jump back into it again, and then it comes back and it slaps you in the face again, and this time it's 3 times as big. And what it's doing is it's forcing you into that place where the only choice you have is to be conscious. To be conscious here, now. And it'll just keep pushing you. And until, I mean, I've had some really sticky stuff that I wasn't able to surrender for a while. And, but after a while, it just starts to get ridiculous. And you have to laugh. And then when you laugh, you realize that this presence is also laughing. But it's not laughing at you, it's laughing with you. So it's interesting. You know, it's pure intelligence, has a sense of humor, and it's expressing itself through us. So yeah, so this is kind of the journey. It's like it's a remembering. You know, we basically do it as an awakening.
Yeah.
Because we introduce people to Eckhart on the way in, and of course he introduced everybody to these signposts and pointers, and we know them well. And then we step into the wood, and suddenly what Eckhart starts to do, what Eckhart's been talking about, becomes a reality. Mm. And so it's kind of funny because presence has its own sense of humor in how it's expressing itself through us as well. Because we basically use Eckhart Tolle on the way in. Mm. So everybody's, you know, steps in through Eckhart with a new earth. And then when people come out the other side, now they're in an experience where it's about awakening. Because now they experience what Eckhart's been talking about. Now they can see these pointers and signposts. And so we're working with Adyashanti afterwards.
Okay.
And he has a really beautiful book called The End of Your World. So, which is hilarious because, you know, here we go in, you know, it's a new earth, and then you step into this experience and you get your head broken open. You have the longest night of your life. You step out of space and time. And, and then this incredible experience.
Well, so basically it sounds to me a little bit like it's not for the faint-hearted by any stretch of the imagination, because it's such an intense, life-changing experience.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a total awakening. So, and it's an initiation into your natural state of being. So what happens with it is that it's an experience that takes place over a period of time. So people step in, and sometimes they only need to have one experience. Mm. But for most people, it's an experience which takes place over a period of time. Because you're having this experience, and then it's grounding itself into your reality. And then when that's kind of the run.
So fundamentally, it can be quite profound on how you live the rest of your life?
It's a really big shift, because what basically the implications of it is that you let go of seeking.
Right.
You let go of looking for yourself, and yeah, it's kind of that one, really. Letting go of looking for yourself and actually being here now.
So it basically goes, in many respects, against the grain of how we live our lives on a daily basis in Western society in particular.
Totally. Yeah. And that's also totally shamanic as well.
Mm.
So
fundamentally, you've said we are all shaman, and is it inherent in all of us?
Mm. Well, that's kind of interesting, because when I first started to step into my practice, and I kind of feel my practice is more of a life practice. It isn't something I sit down and do with a group of people. It's something I live.
Mm-hmm.
And so where am I going with that? Pop that question past me again.
So basically,
is it in? Yeah. So and what I got into, I had a really beautiful book that opened it up for me quite a lot. It was a book by Osho called The Mustard Seed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the Book of Thomas. And it's basically the Dead Sea Scrolls. And the discourse by Osho on it is just so, so profound. And basically Jesus is saying in it that there's no need for a church, that there's no need for a prayer. You are the prayer. We're living here right now. And it was a really very insightful realization on who Jesus was, and the fact that he is so shamanic in this approach, because the whole shamanic approach is quite reactionary in its way. It's totally contrary to what society is saying it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. So how have we gone and lost this knowledge in many respects? Why is it only with such a small percentage of people? And we're now living our lives so distanced away from this philosophy.
Interesting question. Yeah. I don't really know the answer on that one, really.
That's okay.
I mean, for my own experience, I experience myself as a wisdom keeper.
Right, interesting.
And it's not a wisdom that I picked up from my father. No. Well, I did. I'm not. It's this line that I carry. But again, that story.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're kind of stepping into the conspiracy side of things a little bit.
Yeah.
And the thing with it is that there is actually quite a huge network of people out there who are waking up. And what happens with this experience that I have is that I travel quite extensively.
Mm-hmm.
And I get invited to different countries, and I work with lots of different groups of people who are waking up. And there are no, I don't know. It's kind of it's not a topic I can really speak about.
Yeah, I'm just finding it fascinating that we've all got obviously this inherent knowledge, and people like yourself, like you say, wisdom keepers, and are opening it up for people. yeah, it's such a shame that over the years our life has obviously changed that connection that we've had with ourselves to be able to live like that.
Yeah.
And in particular, you've got I work with Chinese medicine, and that wisdom is kept, but fundamentally, Western society has shifted away from it. And, and the whole...
Yes. Okay, yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting, that one, because basically what happens with it is if you go and work with a medicine tradition in the Amazon, then a lot of the work is about the heart.
Yeah.
Because they already have a connection to the mother.
Yeah.
Nature isn't something that they have controlled. They live on nature. And so their experience is more through the heart.
Yeah.
But in the West, it's through the head.
Yeah.
Through the ego. So we have a much more developed ego over here. So what tends to happen within our practice is that we're just letting go of the mind. Yeah. The mind is a tool, and if you don't use it, it's going to use you. And right now it's using you. And this is kind of the approach we take within it. But I kind of feel... I mean, I know what you're saying, but I kind of feel with it that this experience gives me all the lessons that I need to have.
Yeah.
And I've spent my, I was really fortunate in that my girlfriend, who's my ex, well, she's still my girlfriend. She'll always be my girlfriend. But the mother of my son, who I spent 12 years with, used to constantly kill my ego every time it raised its head. So it was a really huge advantage to my practice. But no, I don't know. I don't know. It's not really a topic I can do.
Yeah. Sean, this has been really, really fascinating chatting to you and getting a real insight into what you do and how you do it. How do people get in contact with you if they want to pursue working with you?
Well, what we basically do is we've got a website called worldbridges.org. So it's kind of WORLDBRIDGERS.org, and we've got a really simple web page. I mean, it's under a little bit of construction at the moment, but it should be accessible. And on it, at the bottom of the page, we have a link which our friend Stephen Gray in Canada has recorded for us. And it's a really excellent little link, and you can go there and you can read it or listen to an interview we did there. And it's about an hour and a half, and it covers all the material that we cover. And then if people are interested, then they're able to contact us through the site, and then we provide a consultation. And then once we provide the consultation, they go on the mailing list and they step into the experience. And then when it's time, they know when it's time, and we're off.
Fantastic. I do think it's not for the faint-hearted, by the sounds of things. And I feel like I've been a student sat at the feet of a true teacher today. It has been really fascinating, Sean, and I truly appreciate you spending the time with me and my audience. Thank you very much.
I know, it's been a pleasure. Thanks, Debbie.
Hi, everybody. This is Debbie. Okay, food for thought. That was that interview was with Sean Hamman. So incredibly laid back guy talking about shamanism, and it was really, really interesting. And we didn't really get anywhere near into what he does as we just kind of scratched the surface. So hopefully he'll come back on at another stage and chat further with us, because he is truly very, very fascinating. So I've posted the link at the bottom. It's World Bridgers, not Bridges, and I've actually put the link in there .org, so you can see and click on that. I'll put it in the Facebook page as well for everybody for later. So for those of you who are listening to this via the pod. And now, okay, so come and say hello to me in the chat box. And if you're wondering about why Ray's actually trying to convince everyone that he's only 21, then it's because there was basically adult content with the interview, so you had to be over 18. Just scraped in there, see, Captain. But apparently my name's gone in the naughty book. I didn't know there was a naughty book on TNS. How brilliant is that? Who wants their name in the naughty book? I'm almost tempted to set one up now, just for the hell of it. Oh, let's see how bad we can all be. And apparently someone mentioned Bardo, and the Captain's gone a bit mad about it. So what you all like. Anyway, get in the chat box and say hello to me. And on a day when I'm quite shocked that Captain Stingray is telling me that he's only 21. So what I'm going to talk about for the rest of the show, I'm actually going to talk about some natural health ingredient news, because on top of, it's just getting worse and worse, to be honest. And I'm talking about ingredients specifically, which are actually going to affect us. On top of like milk thistle being now near impossible to actually get hold of if you are not a herbalist or a natural health practitioner like myself. Because let's face it, they fear us actually improving our livers and improving our health. Basically the National Toxicology Program over in the States is actually issuing a warning over the usage of ginkgo biloba. And it's a report that's been done that effectively shows that there's carcinogenic effects of from the medicinal herb that they've done. And, but that report has been heavily criticised by herbalists, particularly two of the main herbalism societies in the States, and who've actually written to the program to explain how the ginkgo extracts, and this is what they often do. They'll use different extracts, or they'll use synthetic extracts. They'll use synthetic supplements in their research to actually show something completely different than what the research normally shows on supplements or herbalism or the herbals that they're using. But the ginkgo extracts in particular that were used bear little representation to the ones that we would actually use, and they were far, far higher. And the herbal organisations were actually complaining prior to the piece of research being done, and then I've been complaining heavily, criticising it since then. And they were effectively prepared for pharmaceutical products. So significantly different extracts. And in fact, I can't remember, I think it's Stephen, what's his name? It's gone out of my head. Dentali, I think his name is, who's effectively, it's like a chief scientific officer for the American Herbal Association. He basically said the similarity between the extract that they've used and the extract that we would normally use is like the similarity between an elephant and a mouse, which is that they've got 4 legs, which I thought was very funny. Mark Blumenthal, basically, who's like the director of the American Botanical Council, but actually states in his statement that he thinks it's misleading for the general public, that piece of research and the report. And he's actually quite outspoken, and these organisations have been quite outspoken, which in many respects, it makes an absolute change. It really, really does, because, it's almost like the natural health organisations and, the community almost seem to be rolling over and just allowing their tummies to be tickled by these, the powers that be in regards to all the authorising and licensing of these products. And it's almost like they're accepting of the outcome and putting their head in the sand. And actually, particularly around supplements and botanicals, and poor homeopaths. doesn't even bear thinking about, which in effect, you know, they're coming and they're picking it all off one by one by one. That's effectively what they're doing. And they're doing it very, very cleverly. And, you know, Alliance for Natural Health, you know, if you're not on their website, if you're not on their subscription list, get yourself on there, because they seem to be one of the few organisations globally. So you've got the Alliance for Natural Health, not only in the UK and Europe, but also in the States. They've linked up. You know, they're one of the few organisations that are actually fighting and getting out, you know, out there the information around what is happening. So do support them if you can, because they've got a lot of power to their elbow, and they're regularly getting this information out so that we're all aware of it. But basically similar to what doctors don't tell you in many respects. They're doing the same thing, and, you know, highlighting what's going on, and, you know, effectively what your doctors won't tell you, what the medical people won't tell you. Let me see what's going on in the chat box with you all. Bitchin's here. Hello, Bitchin. Johnny Meath. Hello, Johnny. And, how are you? Only one name never makes the naughty book. I'll give you one guess. I have no idea. If someone's, and Johnny's suggesting it's Bob, who will never make the naughty book. And anyone else, any ideas about who won't make the naughty book today? What have you all been doing to get yourselves in the naughty book? That's what I want to know. Keep it clean. Otherwise you know what the chat box is like. You all go off on one, and basically I spend the whole day laughing my head off about it all. And Johnny's saying, hi Debs. Hello. Perfect. So you know, what's the knock-on effect? You know, the Centre for the Science of Public Interest are basically recommending that ginkgo biloba is now to be avoided. And you know, this is how it starts. So they start by saying, oh, you've got to avoid this because it's not safe. Actually, there are contraindications with it, but actually it is shown like like most herbals, in fact, all herbals, that actually there's very little against the botanicals. You know, they cause very few injuries, if any, in comparison to your medicines, of which there's thousands and thousands of noted incidents, which, you know, doesn't seem to matter, does it, at the end of the day? But basically, Stephen Dentali is, he actually states that if it had been peer-reviewed, that report and that piece of research, it would have been thrown out due to the difference in the medical composition that they used. So that just shows you where it is, in effect, and it just seems to be, you know, if it was their own research, it'd be accepted. If it's ours, you know, it's not. So it's mudslinging that goes backwards and forwards, but in effect they are coming and they're taking away our choice bit by bit by bit to use natural approaches to our health. And please become more outspoken. If you use it, please become very, very outspoken about it, because this is the only way people will know about it and then do something about it. Let's see. You know, actually, Johnny, I don't understand what that means, and I don't even know if I want to read it out. But bitching saying that is very good, Johnny, apparently. And he's got very in big letters. It looks like Bob's not going in the naughty book. What about the rest of you? And I've never seen this naughty book, in all honesty. I really haven't. Let's face it, if we had a good book, it'd be pretty empty, wouldn't it? With you guys in the chat box. Shall I put you in the good book? That'd be it, wouldn't it? Although I could put out stars. Everyone put a star on there if basically they feel they've been good today. Never mind. I don't know, the captain's saying even Vin made the naughty book once, just once. I'm almost gutted. It only happened once. You know, I don't want to go. I don't want to be there. And everyone's at my funeral and everyone's going, oh, she actually achieved the good book. And that'd be awful. Absolutely awful. Honestly. Johnny, did I spell it wrong again? Very possibly. I've got no idea. And Johnny's permanently on the naughty step. That's a bit freaky, those naughty steps, if I'm honest. I never really understood them for children. create a step to put them on. You know, it's like hierarchies, isn't it? All of a sudden you've got this step that you go onto, but it's naughty. Blimey. I don't know. Anyway, they're always at my door. Johnny, what you like? Anyway, I'll let you get off the naughty step. We've just got a naughty book today that you need to put yourselves into. So, Deb's ruling the world. Oh, man, of course. Why not? Do I want to rule the world? I don't know. That's actually a big question. It seems that there's a lot of things to be thinking about if I had to rule the world. You know, I don't know if I could deal with that, in all honesty. Anyway, there is a slow march, basically, on what is happening to prevent you from actually using natural products for your health if you want to make that choice. And this, for me, is about choice. If you want to choose, you know, a medicinal approach, then do. If you want to choose a herbal and natural approach to supplements, then you should be able to. You should not be prevented from doing it. It is about choice. It shouldn't be about the fact that we are only told one thing. You know, eventually your choice is going to be which medication do you want to take from probably the same pharmaceutical companies. And that isn't right. It isn't right. We should be allowed the choice to work naturally on our bodies if we want to. Our natural health traditions are being slowly eroded away. They really, really are. You know, step by step. You know, they firstly tell us they're not advisable for use after years of usage with no reported issues. You know, and then shall I go on about all the medications that have the side effects listed? You know, and then you've got medications that, you know, kill people. The drug interactions kill people. And they're noted. They know. You've got medications out there. The side effect, death. That's not a side effect. I don't know about you, but that doesn't seem like good odds to me at all. You know, but you're not stopped from using them, even with the whole list of side effects. But you are, you know, you're encouraged to use more and more and more of them and layer and layer and layer of them. How many of you start with one medication, then, you know, 10 years time, you've got 10 that you're taking. It's ridiculous. And the amounts just go up and up and up. You know, and we are encouraged to take more and more of them with no understanding of the pharmacology impacts once you've got more than one in the body. You know, but herbals, you know, your botanicals, your homeopathics, your supplements are being removed from usage because they're considering them to, you know, that they're dangerous. Food's dangerous. This is how it's getting. Natural food is becoming dangerous to you. Honestly, it's being given a bad press, and my suggestion is you get out, grow your own, and when you're growing your own, put herbs in. Surround yourself with the foods that will help your body to actually function properly. Absolutely key. Surround yourself with those beautiful foods that truly feed your body and keep you really, really well. And Bob's saying, we know your master plan. Veg and water for us all. Blimey. I don't know. Is it my master plan? I don't know if you do know my master plan at all, Bob. You've not put dancing in there, and I love dancing, let's face it. So my master plan would be to have us all dancing, and water, absolutely. Water is so important. Vegetables, plants are fantastic. Plants, medicinal plants, they feed your body, help the fibres, perfect for your digestive system, all those minerals, those phytonutrients. It helps your body to sing, gives you energy. So probably yes. You probably know part of my master plan. They're anti-inflammatory. They help all your circulatory system, give you beautiful skin. What else? Anyway, any recipes this week, says the captain. Running out of ideas for tinned mince and onions. No, I have no recipes at all for you. I'm not even getting into that conversation. Honestly, I thought you don't stoop that low. There's no point in stooping that low. Honestly, behave yourself. So, and Johnny's saying, keeping us all green. Yes, indeed. Greens are fantastic. Packed with your vitamin K for your bones. Perfect. And they're packed with micronutrients. Oh, super. Give you energy, help you with your cleansing, detoxing. They're light. They allow you to run around the fields if you want and dance and sing in the sunshine. Perfect. And they make you younger. Yes, indeed. I agree. They do make you younger. Johnny's saying, sexy leader. I didn't realise you were. Obviously, that picture's not looking good of you, though. Joe, you look like a bear in that picture. I'm bitching saying in high heels. You guys, what are you all wearing today? Honestly. Yeah, you start off. Is that your slingbacks? Is Ducky in today? Where's Ducky? He normally chats away about his slingbacks. Anyway, so to help you make a choice about whether, ginkgo is for you, I'm going to help you to see that actually there are huge benefits to taking this herb, but also there can be side effects to it. And that's the thing about herbals, is about understanding, what they are capable of within the body. So, ginkgo is basically, it's a deciduous tree, and it lives as long as about 1,000 years. And the extracts basically come from the leaves, and that's the medicinal side of it. It's got quercetin as one of its major flavonoids. Effectively, it's got a few others in there, but quercetin is the one that most people actually know about. So that's quite powerful for your body. Most people know about it because it helps with all kind of age-related mental decline and your memory impairment. So those of you who can't remember your name today, and I'm Debbie, just in case you're wondering, basically, ginkgo is absolutely key for you, but there are kind of, some kind of contraindications with it. So just be aware of that. But, it is fantastic for the memory. What is ginkgo? What about ginkgo? What on earth are you guys going on about? Follow the chat flow, dear. Sexy leader in high heels, face pat. What on? What's this whole dear thing? Are you speaking to Johnny? That was Maggie, wasn't it? Where's the wasn't she known more for her handbags? And yes, super being herbs. Yeah, indeed. I'm all for us all being super beings. Absolutely. And the interesting thing, and they will tell you there's no science behind what people like me do, around nutritionists and naturopaths and homeopaths and your botanicals. There's masses. There's a lot of research, and there's a lot of research because the pharmaceutical companies are looking for the extracts to use in their own medications. So there is research out there, and there's a large number of well-controlled clinical trials that have established ginkgo biloba extract as an effective intervention in the management of cognitive decline, which is age-related, and other conditions involving kind of memory loss. So, there is a body of research out there already that is very supportive of the use of this herb. Do not allow people to tell you otherwise, really. Yeah, Johnny, you are on the naughty step. In fact, you're now in the naughty book. Never mind on the naughty step. And behave yourselves, guys. What are you like? Apparently the captain's wearing seam stockings today. Oh, how did it all go so downhill? Right, this is all of you in the naughty book. Never mind on the step. Out. Go on, behave yourselves. So, and the interesting thing is the medical people and your doctors will say herbs don't work. Yeah, if they were reading their Lancets back in 1992, even that was actually that had basically a double blind controlled trial evaluated in there about the efficacy of ginkgo. They need to read a bit wider than what they're just spoon fed by the pharmaceutical companies. And some of these pieces of research were actually done on large numbers. It's not small numbers that they've done it on, so 1,000 people. So it's not small pieces of research at all. And, that often these studies show very, very good results in these areas, particularly in the age-related cognitive decline. And that's the Lancet that one piece of research was in that I pulled out, and that's just one, but you've got placebo-controlled studies which are published in the Journal of American Medicine, for the American Medicine Association. So this is their own publications, which involved, in one case back in 1997, 300 patients with Alzheimer's. And that revealed that ginkgo it significantly improved their patient outcomes compared to a placebo group. And this is the thing. Lots of people will say it's the placebo effect. Actually, they did it against the placebo group. This is interesting. There is definitely research that shows this. I don't even know if I want to look at the chat box now. I don't. Naughty Step must be very big. Yeah, just keep them all in hand, Nick. Honestly, what are they like? Johnny, behave yourself. Right. And we're talking about kind of extracts of only about 40 milligrams. So it's not big extracts at all. And they were taking it 3 times daily for this particular study. And that actually stabilized large numbers of those Alzheimer's patients. And it actually improved their cognitive performance, over a 6 months or a year period. That's significant for them, for those types of people. It's really quite powerful as a botanical to be using. Really, really is. And there's other studies out there, basically, that have shown that, over 3 to 6 months, a course of only about 120 to 240 milligrams a day, you can improve your cognitive functioning. And that's from the extracts that are normally available on the market. So that's, that is significant. But what you need to understand, guys, is that ginkgo can bring bleeding complications, and that's not me swearing, that's actually talking about the circulatory system. And, so I'm talking about the fact that the membrane starts to bleed. Okay, so you need to understand how to use this herb. That's the other side of it. And often people just go and buy ginkgo off the shelves, but you have to really understand where you are at and whether you should be taking it. Okay, because in some respects it might not be the right choice for you in that way. Right, so Captain's asking, would vitamin tablets crushed into a pot noodle be any good? You mean you've got vitamin tablets? I'm stunned. Well, they couldn't do you any harm, let's face it, could they, Captain, really? I kind of feel it's a lost cause. But hey, you can try it. It would be a way of improving the ingredient list, let's face it. And I read the other week that pot noodles are covered in wax or something. But why? And I didn't actually realise that pot noodles were still available. But then I only learn about some of this food from you, Captain. How are you still alive? I do not know, honestly. So most of the benefits around ginkgo are actually around the memory loss aspect of things, and basically the enhancing of it. So that's predominantly where you'd use it. And there is, like I was saying, there's lots and lots of research out there which shows that you can improve your memory function. But the great thing about ginkgo is it actually has antioxidants, so it has those effects in it, and therefore it improves the blood flow to the deeper centres of the brain. That is why a lot of people use it. In particular, it allows for greater concentration, therefore, of your nutrients to actually get to those brain cells inevitably, if you've still got any left after this many years, and depending on what you've done to your body. And this is how it can help with your cognitive impairment effectively, because it basically is improving the efficiency effectively of your nutrients getting to the right cells. So that's quite useful, as you can imagine. You know, and your brain cells, of course, contain like the highest percentage of unsaturated fatty acids. Your brain's not a cheap date. That's what I always say. It's important, and it can oxidize really, really easily, unfortunately, because it is a fat-rich organ. You know, so in effect, you know, it's got more fats than at any other place in the body. So it's the highest percentage of it. But this does make it really susceptible to your free radical damage as unsaturated fats. You know, they've got those old double bond things. And so double bond things, there's your chemistry. Made myself laugh at that. But the thing is about the double bonds, they're actually really easily broken by your free radicals, because they're going in search of the electron. So, you know, that's not particularly useful to make chemistry really easily. So therefore, those antioxidants that are in your ginkgo effectively, you know, are shown to prevent the free radical damage in those structures. They block the lipid oxidation effectively, and actually preserve your integrity of your nerve cell membranes, which is obviously really useful. And talking a bit more seriously there, and actually that can truly preserve the transmitting of the nerve pulses. So that's also obviously another benefit of that, because if your cell membranes are looking good, then in effect you're going to have your neurotransmitters basically functioning properly in the reception, and your cell communication is going to be far, far better than if it's not. So, you know, if you want your brain cells to be communicating to each other, then you might want to look at taking some ginkgo. Obviously, if you don't, then I don't bother. Okay, so apparently Captain's read the label wrong, and Viagra is a vitamin. So so you're talking about vitamin V then, and that would be better in a pot noodle. I have no idea for you. I really don't. I have no idea what would be better for you anymore. Whatever. Why you're coming on here eating pot noodle. I'm a naturopath. You should not be eating pot noodle. It's not good for you anyway, let's face it. It's junk food. It just gives you junk thinking at the end of the day. There you go. That's my summary of junk food for you. Okay. But so, if you want to improve your memory, then ginkgo can be really, really useful for you, in all honesty. And those chemical signals particularly are useful for people with Alzheimer's and stuff like this. So, and the age-related cognitive decline. So, you know, it might be something that you consider if you have, you know, if you are seeing either those symptoms, or you have people around you who effectively are showing those symptoms themselves, you know. So, because of the increased blood circulation and nutrient delivery to the brain cells. And how cool is that, in all honesty? Yep. So, but the other thing which is really interesting, as I was reading about, is that they're used in the treatment of dementia, and actually appears to directly stimulate nerve cell activity and protect from further injury, which I actually didn't know about the further injury side. So that's actually quite interesting as well. So if you are, showing a level of dementia, I'm thinking about that. I'm just going to have a quick look at the chat room. Captain, pot noodle is lovely with 2 tablespoons of Marmite in them. Perfect for you. Absolutely. With your vitamin V, it looks like you're going to have a good afternoon, doesn't it? Enjoy. The other interesting thing, for those of you who are not on the naughty step and haven't gone blind, basically, is that ginkgo can actually be really beneficial for the management of kind of macular degeneration. Obviously, that's talking about your eyes, guys. So, you know, and diabetic, because obviously diabetics, they can start to lose their eyesight. So that impact, the impact that diabetes has on the eyes as well, it can actually be beneficial to that side of things. And that's because of those antioxidant properties. So, you know, the antioxidants in ginkgo alone are really quite powerful for the body. And, you know, in effect, the tiny, tiny blood cells in the eye effectively are obviously benefited by the ginkgo, basically, because it improves the blood flow. So if you want to actually preserve your eyesight, guys, and one of you in particular might want to be looking at this today, you know, think about ginkgo. And adding it to what you're doing. Okay. So let me have a quick look as well. So some of the things it's also used for, things like PMS, interestingly enough. You've got vertigo and something I'll come on to in a minute, but vertigo, I didn't actually realize about ginkgo. And this was I do a little bit of research, a bit more research, and remind myself of this bits and pieces so I can talk to you about it. I had no idea about some of the latest research, and actually, you know, vertigo came up 160 milligrams, and it was used in a study with about 70 patients, all suffering from vertigo, and actually, you know, against a placebo for 3 months. And they had a 47% recovery rate, which I had no idea about. And so that'll be something that I now will definitely be adding to my practice when I'm dealing with vertigo, because that I had no idea of that sort of benefit on it. And, you know, so, you know, the placebo group showed about 18%, but 47%, that's not bad. No, you know, your medications don't even get that sort of percentage improvement. You're lucky about 2 or 3% with medications at times. And the other thing is, ladies, PMS, you know, there's a study out there which effectively showed that, you know, your emotional disturbances, you know, all your emotional side of PMS and things like, your kind of breast pain and things like that was actually reduced because of, the improvement in the blood flow. So it can definitely actually help in that. It's been shown. So there's lots and lots of areas. And also, since we're on to capital V, and the captain's putting Viagra in his pot noodles today, you know, ginkgo, there's studies out there that show that basically because of the improvement that ginkgo has in your peripheral blood vessels, hey, you know, in effect, it showed that it improved the impaired blood flow. How good is that? And therefore, it was a good treatment for male impotence. There you go. So on a show when, you know, obviously the captain's telling us about his impotence because he's actually putting Viagra in his pot noodles. You know, I'm telling you, it might not be the case. You should potentially be putting ginkgo in that pot noodle so that you can actually have a good afternoon without the Viagra side effects. And Nick's giving advice today. There you go. Nick rides shotgun with me. He keeps me in check. He really does, which is quite useful, to be honest, because I have no idea what the time is without him telling me that I need to be quiet and let Shaziz come on. Shaziz is on it too. I'm always the warm-up act, as you all know, before the madness starts for the afternoon on a Saturday. I have no idea what Shaziz will be talking about. Sometimes wonder if he has any idea. They live for 1,000 years, so let's see how you can get on with that. Anyway. And you spelled ginkgo wrong. It's got a G in it, guys. I'm going to put ginkgo in here so you can all spell it. Now, let me just make sure I spell it right. There you go. That's the spelling for you. Okay. So, as a rule, if you get tablets, you'll mainly get them in about 40 milligrams. But mostly you'll get it as tinctures. So my advice is that you follow the instructions on the tincture or what's been given you by your herbalist. mostly, we generally find up to about 160 milligrams across the day. But it depends on what you've got. So it could be 40 milligrams is more than enough. So just make sure that actually you're taking the advice of someone, a herbalist or, a naturopath. So adverse side effects though. Just masses of trials and research out there, which covers over 10,000 patients. So, there is a significant body of research that's been done. In effect, the side effects have included gastrointestinal discomfort, your headaches, dizziness, and allergic skin reactions. But it actually proves to be an anticoagulant. So because of that action, there is an increased risk of internal bleeding with it. In the brain and the cranial regions. So, did you understand that, guys? It does have another side to it, which you need to be aware of. So if you're going to go into surgery, if you're taking blood thinners, you have any bleeding disorder, if you're pregnant prior to labour, delivery, all of those things, you don't take it. And you keep your doses divided if you are taking it, but don't take it at night, guys. So, and drug interactions are always really, really useful to know about. It will basically increase the effects of anticoagulant drugs. So you must make sure that if you're taking anticoagulants, things like, let me think off the top of my head, you've got aspirin, Coumadin, your warfarin, Plavix, all sorts of things. Then you should not be taking this. NSAIDs, so your anti-inflammatories, your non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, it can increase the bleeding disorders associated with the use of those as well. And they shouldn't be taken concurrently with these medications at all. Also, let me think, some of your antidepressant drugs as well. Make sure that you're not taking them with them as well, and get advice from a good herbalist. So let me see what's going on in the chat box. So, Captain's saying, I thought he was in the Rocky films. He probably was. Well, this stuff made me age more. What stuff are you talking about, though? That's the only problem. I've got no idea. You guys have been talking about your slingbacks, what else? Your naughty steps. I've got no idea which part of it are you talking about that's going to actually pot noodles. Are you talking about that making you age more? MSG, vitamin V, I don't know. And having a red arse, apparently. I've just noticed that. Nice. Possibly that is definitely going to age you more. Ginkgo biloba. No, it's full of antioxidants. The free radical damage that you're probably doing to your body will be helped by this herb, because the antioxidants in it, the flavonoids, will come in and help mop up those free radicals and all that damage, and it'll help the brain, the cognitive functioning. It'll help your cells beautifully. Help your cells, helps all the communication, enables you to feel better, it'll give you more energy, faster thinking, all those sorts of things. So who knows? So let me have a quick look. What else you're saying to me? Anything? I don't know. Now the thing is that they've basically started with milk thistle. So the authorities have started to kind of, they've put in this Herbals Act, and they're starting to pick off and call them, these food additives and these supplements and botanicals one by one. And, milk thistle has become harder to get hold of for yourselves unless you're basically a practitioner. All these botanicals are just getting harder and harder, and you have to come to someone like me to get proper herbals and not just really watered down versions of it. So your supplements, I sell one type of supplement and I use one type of supplement, which are practitioner ones, and then you get another type in your shops, which are far, far watered down, often synthetic. And this is what's happening bit by bit by bit. They're taking your right to use natural products away from you, and the ones that are left on the shelves, you think nothing's changed, but they are poor representatives of what used to be available. And they're stripping it away from you bit by bit, step by step. They're just coming for them one by one by one. And if you want to be treating yourselves naturally, you have to be aware of this, and you need to be talking to people about it so that there is a larger awareness, because it will get to the point where suddenly there's nothing left. And if you wanted to have that choice, you no longer have it, and your choice will purely be medications. I hate to say it. So, it's up to you guys. It really is, because we can't keep putting our head in the sand, pretending that this isn't happening. Unfortunately, it truly is to us. And my advice is, you're not going to be able to plant one of these trees, unfortunately, but you can plant things like milk thistle, chamomile in your gardens. Start to surround yourself with herbs, dandelion, nettles. They tend to be everywhere. Your blackberry leaves, your raspberry leaves, all those sorts of things are available, and you can have planted around you for when you actually need them. Makes it so that you've got your garden and it's medicinal for you, and you can just add them. Things like lemon balm, it's easy to grow. Mints are really easy to grow. They'll keep themselves. They really do. And that way you can just grab them as and when you want. You can put them in your salads and things like this, and just make them as a part of your day. How beautiful is that? That's how we'll prevent them from taking them away from us in the short term, or in the long term, I should say. So, I don't know. Anyway, so you've all been very quiet. Blimey. No more comments. Maybe, does that mean one of you's keeled over from your lunch? You've had lunch and basically it's been a pot noodle and that's been the end of it. Blimey. But lots of these herbs have been used medicinally for so long. So, right then, we're going to have some music. I think we're going to end with Rawhide. I'm just going to check with Nick and then see if he's around. Hopefully he's around. And I'm going to say goodbye to you all. So you've all been fabulous. Thank you very much for making me laugh. As always, you always keep me going. If you want me to talk about anything in particular in the future, do tell me and I will cover it off. So we have Rawhide, and then we have Shaziz coming up. He'll be mad. You just know he will. Okay, take care, guys. It's been very enjoyable. Bye.